Today I'm telling you two fairy tales entitled The White Dove, one Danish, one French, one about a transformed princess, and one about a serial killer. The first one is Danish, and it starts with a king who has two sons. One day they're out sailing on a boat, and a storm is basically going to kill him. Then an old woman rows out to meet them, not in a boat, but in a dough trough, like a long trough meant for kneading dough. This is the illustration of her that I could find from Andrew Lang's Pink Fairy book, which is where this story comes from. If the dough trough and this illustration didn't let you know, she's a witch. She's like, I'll make it so that you don't die and make it home safe, but you have to promise me your mother's next son. Rightfully, the brothers are like, we can't do that. He doesn't belong to us. She's like, guess you're gonna rot at the bottom of the sea. And they're like, never mind, we promise. So the witch calms the storm. They go home. They do not tell their parents about their promise. Their mother then gives birth to their brother. They still don't tell anyone. He grows up to be a grown man. They still just don't tell anybody. One day when the prince himself is out on a boat on the ocean, a storm again comes and this witch rows out and she's like, hey, you got promised to me before you were even born. I know it's the mom with an infant in this picture, but that's not what happens. Our dude doesn't even hesitate. He's like, yes, if my brothers made that promise to you, I will honor the promise. I will go with you. So he goes home with her. Like in lots of fairy tales, she gives him a lot of impossible tasks. She says he has to sort this huge heap of feathers, but like every time he does, the feathers go back to where they were. Well, then suddenly there's this white dove pecking at the window pane with its beak. It says, let me in. And he lets it in and it's like, I can help you. So the dove accomplishes the task, picks all the feathers up, and then when the old woman comes home, flies away. And she's like, I didn't expect you to be able to accomplish that, but okay. The next day she tells him to split wood, but magically every time he splits the wood, the pile grows bigger. He can't do it. So the dove shows up again and is like, I got this. So the dove splits it with its beak, strong beak, and goes so fast he can barely carry it away, but he gets it done with help of the dove again. So then the dove flies up onto his shoulder. He thanks it and strokes it and gives a little kiss on its beak. And when he does that, it transforms into a beautiful human maiden. She's a princess. She got stolen by the witch and changed into a dove, but now he has magically made her human again. She's like, if you marry me, we can both get free from the witch. And he's immediately in love with her and just like, okay, sure, whatever, I'm down. She's like, when the witch comes home, you have to ask for anything you wish for accomplishing these tasks. And then when she says, what do you want? Tell her you want the princess who has been changed into a dove. But she's gonna try and trick you. So to avoid that, tie this red string around my finger. It'll be helpful, I promise. So the old witch comes home with the dough trough on her back. That's what a dough trough looks like, apparently. He asks her for the princess who's the dove, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have anything like that. Goes inside and drags out a donkey and says, here, you want this ass instead? But he sees that red thread is on the hoof of the donkey, so he knows it's the princess. So he says, yeah, I want the donkey. And she's like, wait, what? She's like, what would you even do with this? And he's like, I'll ride on it. And she's like, no, never mind. She takes the donkey back, and then she comes out with another old woman, a hag, who is toothless, but she's also still got the red string on. She's like, you want her? And he's like, yeah, I'll take her. And she's like, no, you weren't supposed to say yes. She gets so mad she literally smashes everything in the vicinity. But the princess transforms into her normal shape and she's like, all right, I guess I gotta let you guys get married. Now at the marriage feast, the princess tells him, don't drink anything or you're gonna forget about me. This is very common in fairy tales. He totally forgets and starts to drink, but she knocks it out of his hand and she's like, I told you not to drink anything. And he's like, ooh, sorry. So he actually doesn't drink it and forget about her, as happens in a lot of other fairy tales. She's too quick. And the witch gets so mad when she knocks the drink away that she then smashes all the dishes and just smashes everything again. But there's apparently nothing she can do. So she takes them to their bridal chamber and shuts the door. And the princess is like, all right, this is our chance. We got to run away now because she'll find some other reason. They run off doing another fairy tale trick where they leave two pieces of wood in their bed that magically answer for them for a while to keep the witch from coming. She'll be like, are you guys in there? And the wood's like, yes, we're in here. But eventually the witch figures it out and comes after them. After smashing the wood into 1,000 pieces, of course. The chase scene involves a lot of other common fairy tale tropes. The girl throws a flower pot behind her and it grows into a huge forest that slows the witch down. He throws down a glass of water that then becomes a whole lake and she has to go back for her dough trough to cross it. They reach the castle and the princess just turns around and blows on her. It says hundreds of white doves then flew out of the princess's mouth, fluttered and flapped around the witch's head until she grew so angry she turned into flint. I mean, not surprising. We knew she had anger issues. So they go to his parents and they get married and live happily ever after. And the two brothers also confess what they did and say, in return for that, you should probably just let him inherit the kingdom because we really don't deserve it. And they step down and he becomes the king. The French fairy tale called The White Dove starts out a lot like Bluebeard, which is also a French tale about a murderous husband. It even has a blue beard, but in this case, it's a giant. So this girl is really headstrong and obstinate and will not marry a man unless he's got a blue beard. And one day, this giant shows up at her house and he has a blue beard. He's also super rich and has like a giant amazing carriage and jewels and gold and all that. So the girl and her parents agree to let her marry him. He's a giant, but he's rich and he's got a blue beard. So before she's to depart with him, the mom comes to her and she's like, I'm gonna give you something really important. She gives her a red dove, a white dove, and a black dove. She says, if you're living peacefully with your husband and everything's good, send me the red dove. If you get sick, send me the white dove. If there's something bad with your husband, send me the black dove. So she goes off with him, and then the story gets traditionally Bluebeard. He goes off hunting all day, and he leaves her these keys and says, you can go into all of these rooms except this one. It's the 9th room at the end of the hall. But of course, as always, she's like, no, I'm going in that room if it's one he doesn't want me going in. So she goes in there. There is a huge basin of blood inside and 8 women's corpses hanging on the walls. She gets so startled, she drops the keys and gets blood on them, but she can't get the blood off. And she's like, he's gonna know I went in this room. And so he comes home and he does see it. And he says, go upstairs, get in your finest clothes, and then come back down here and I'm gonna kill you and hang you up just like the others. One version I read said traditionally at this time, people were often buried in their wedding clothes, so that's why he's having her get her finest clothes on, because time to die. Also remember, he's a giant. Not going to be hard for him to kill her. So she goes upstairs and sends that black dove home. The giant lights a fire and starts boiling in an enormous cauldron, because apparently that's how he's gonna do it. So she keeps stalling him by saying, I have to put on one more layer of clothing. Oh, I'm putting on one more layer of clothing. And as she's stalling him, she's asking the white dove who's at the window, do you see anyone yet? Do you see anyone yet? Do you see anyone yet? Eventually the white dove is like, yes, your family is coming. 2 knights who are her brothers. She finishes putting on her clothes and goes downstairs. Now, when her brothers arrive, the giant pretends like he wasn't about to kill her. He's like, oh, I'm glad you're here. I put on a pot for dinner. So they sit down and have a feast. He falls into a deep sleep during dinner. It says, had he drunk too much or had someone poured a sleeping powder into his wine? He falls asleep with his mouth open, snoring. So they pour a big dipper of boiling oil down into his throat. And he chokes to death and dies. It then adds that they wash the key with the same oil right afterwards, and that blood stain is finally gone, so that's taken care of. It says they all rightfully inherit the domain of the deceased, so they got their own castle and the giant's castle now. And the very last line says, it's a very sad truth that in this world some have too much wealth, whereas others, of which I am one, haven't enough. I feel you, author of this story. A guy named Gaston Mougard who collected a bunch of French stories and published them in the 50s. Check out my own fairy tale reimagining, Dust Spells, and my podcast, Folk Tales and Fairy Lore. Link is in the bio.